and not one that was on the pitch man. That's not going to work against triple option. We have to have one on the pitch man, one on the quarterback, and just hope the quarterback doesn't make a miss, essentially. Because if we have two on the quarterback, the pitch man's wide open and he's gonna get a large gain, and that's exactly what the Citadel did to us. So if we do that against Wofford, where we're not playing assignment football, and Wofford's a much more disciplined triple option team than the Citadel, because they've been doing it for years, or Citadel's only been doing it for 2 or 3 years. So they've got their system down, they've got their players in place for this offense. So if we don't play the assignment football against Wofford, they're gonna absolutely hammer us and take control of the game clock and run away with victory. However, if we do play disciplined assignment football, our athletes are going to take control of the game. We have by far and away better athletes on the field than Wofford does. There's no doubt about that. Never has been. But at the same time, Wofford still gives us a tough game year in and year out, minus a few years. And so it's going to be difficult to test. So the other thing we have to do, other than stopping their rushing attack, is we've got to score a lot and fast. I said the same thing about the Citadel when we're going up against them. Is we got to score a lot and we got to score them early. Only because with the triple option, it's a clock running offense. Their goal is to basically go ahead and run the clock down while gaining 3-4 yards at a time, getting those first downs, running the clock, and then eventually, obviously, getting into the end zone. So if we can get the Terriers in a 14-0 or 21-0 hole, we should be able to control the game, because at that point they're gonna have to throw the ball, and as I mentioned earlier, they are not a passing team. They do not have great passing statistics, and if they do have to pass, it's similar to what we saw last year against Georgia Southern, where they passed a lot more than they wanted to pass because it was such a close game. Our secondary is gonna be able to prey on those errant throws, and with our all-American candidates in Demetrius McCray and Troy Sanders, they should have great numbers if we make Wofford throw the ball. Again, that's a big if. So this said, with all this going through in these stats and everything, and I'm having an extremely difficult time predicting this game. And as always, we're going to go ahead and give you our predictions. Mike has gone ahead. We've recorded his prediction already. So I'm going to go ahead and give you my prediction, and then we're going to give Mike's prediction as well while he's out with his work event. But like I said, this is a very hard prediction to give. And the reason it's so difficult is being how we played against triple option, against the Citadel, and knowing how good Wofford typically is, we could be in a lot of trouble this week. We really could be. However, our offense is getting better week by week. They're putting up bigger numbers. They are mixing up the play calling a lot more. And the homer in me, I'm thinking that this defense is finally ready for the triple option. I think they saw what the Citadel did. They got embarrassed from that, and they don't want that happening again. I think they're going to be ready. I think they're going to be prepared. And then you couple that with the fact that our boys seem to play really well in huge games. They always play up. They always play up to their expectations in huge game. And of course, this is a huge game. I'm gonna go ahead and pick a victory by the Mountaineers solely due to the home field advantage. I'm going to pick a very close one and say we come out with a 35-34 victory, mainly because I'm a homer. But if our same defense comes out against the Citadel, same defense that came out against the Citadel, rather, it comes out again, it's going to be a long day. Wofford is by all intents and purposes, a much better team than Citadel is. So, on the flip side of that, I don't see the same defense coming out. I think it's going to be a much better defense, but at the same time, they're still going to have trouble with a triple option just because that's what the triple option does. It makes good defenses have a hard time with them. So I'm going to say we pull out a close one, 35-34. So fans, I urge you to get to the game early and be loud. Stay to the end and cheer as loud as you possibly can for our guys, as I know they're working hard to entertain you every Saturday. So please stay to the end. I can't urge that enough. This is going to be a huge, huge, huge game, and we need to be loud out there. So please stay to the end and cheer all the way through as our Mountaineers get that victory. So as I said earlier, Mike had to go away on his work engagement, but we did pre-record his prediction. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and play that now.
All right. So for this weekend's game, it's one that's going to be pretty. I think it's going to be a close game. It is a difficult one to predict. Wofford is in some ways a tough team to gauge because they got off to a fast start. They started the season 5-0 before they went down to Statesboro and lost last weekend. But that record might be a little bit deceptive, especially in terms of the huge point totals they were putting up, because the first 5 games of the year before they went down and played Georgia Southern, they were 5-0, but those 5 teams had a 4 combined Division I wins between the 5 of them. So they really didn't play, very stiff competition at all before they went down to Georgia Southern. And looking at their, statistically, and looking at them, from the defensive side, their defense only gives up 205 their defense only gives up 205 passing yards and 100 rushing yards per game. That passing statistic, 205 yards is pretty good, a very good job defensively, but they've really only played one team that, is a Division I team and has a good passing offense, which is Elon, and Elon passed for 360 yards against them. So when you look at that total stat of giving up 205 pass yards per game, that's really not very impressive, considering that, one of the teams they played was Georgia Southern, who's a triple option offense, who did not even attempt a single pass that whole game. The other one was Division II Lincoln, and then Gardner-Webb and Western Carolina, who are not very strong teams at all. So I think the 205 passing yards is, had they played, different teams going up into, leading into this game, that statistic would be a lot higher. So I think their secondary is vulnerable. I think Jamal Jackson is going to have another big day. I do think that Appalachian will be able to move the ball. There are a couple things at play also for the Terriers offensively that are going to have a big impact on the game. One, obviously, is going to be whether Eric Breitenstein plays. He is right now listed as questionable with an ankle injury he suffered last weekend against Georgia Southern, and it sounds like there's no question they're going to be without their left tackle Calvin Cantrell, who's an all-conference player. So offensively, if nothing else, they're going to be missing their left tackle, and it's entirely possible they'll be missing the best player on the team. They say that Breitenstein is listed as questionable. To be honest, I think that unless he is hurt so badly that he's going to be a liability to his team, he's a kid, he's a local kid, he's from Valley Cruisers right outside of Boone. I think he's going to want to come to Appalachian. He's going to want to put on a good show, and I think that unless it's something really serious, that that he's going to give it a go on Saturday. So I do expect to see Breitenstein. They are going to be without one of the anchors of their offensive line, but last week was their first real test of the year, and Georgia Southern was able to hold them down. They only scored 9 points last week. I think with Appalachian having some film on how to defend Wofford, and also having a chip on their shoulder after what happened last time, an option team it came up to Boone, and the Citadel really ran us out of really ran us off the field at our own house. I think we're going to have something to prove, and I don't think it's going to be an easy game. I think that Wofford's really going to give us a run for it. But in the end, I like Appalachian to win the game. Home field advantage, I think, is going to be huge for us. I expect a big crowd at the Rock this weekend, and I think when it's all said and done, I think Appalachian comes out on top 38-31.
All right, thanks, Mike, for that. And as you can tell, both of us are predicting a very close game, so I can't reiterate enough how much it's going to be needed for our fan base to be out there and be loud this weekend. Triple option teams, they rely a lot on deception and getting the play from the sideline. And so if we could be loud and ruin that, it's going to be huge for us. So please be there, stay throughout the game, and be loud. One more segment we have before we're going to end the show. It's kind of last-minute deal that we threw together. Is the mid-year awards for our team. We have 7 different categories, and those are Coach of the Mid-Year, the special teamer of the mid-year, freshman, breakout performer, play of the year so far, the defensive MVP, and the offensive MVP. And so to start off, I'm going to go ahead and start with the Coach of the Year award. And really, I got to go ahead and say Coach Stepp for not for turning this young receiving core into our strength on the offense. Granted, of course, Jamal Jackson is a big portion of that, and is also the offensive line giving Jamal Jackson that time. But we could throw in any single one of our wide receivers, and I think we would have a solid passing game, and that's a large portion of Coach Stepp. And having spoke with him in an interview on the podcast, I know he's doing all he can to possibly get these guys up and playing to their potential and playing to a very high level. So congratulations, Coach Justin Stepp, for our wide receivers coach for earning our mid-year Coach of the Year. And then next we've got the Special Teamer of the Year, and I don't think there's any doubt in this one. It's got to be Sam Martin. Almost every single kickoff has been a touchback. And then on top of that, he's had a very, very high average yards per punt. And he's even had 2 blocked, and he still has a very high average yards per punt. So there's no contest really in that one to Sam Martin. Drew Stewart has done well with field goals and extra points, but Sam Martin has really helped us out with the punts, especially getting the opponent in awful field position. The Freshman of the Year, again, there really has not been much of a competition here. It's got to be Sean Price. Averaging crazy yards per catch, yards per game, and then most important, every game he's played, we've won. So he provides that deep threat, and there really hasn't been much of a competition here. Of course, we got another receiver in Malachi Jones who's playing very well, and a few freshmen on the defensive side that are playing very well as well. But Sean Price has been the deciding factor in this. Our breakout performer of the year so far has been Stephen Miller. He was not expected to have to carry the load as a rushing attack, coming in being number 2 behind Chisholm. And when Chisholm got hurt, of course, Stephen Miller had to jump in, and he was really able to allow us to keep our red shirt off of Tyshawn Holloway, which is huge. So that was big, and then add to that, his receiving threat is enormous for this offense. Having him be able to go out on wheel routes, and then even against Elon, he's such a good receiver. We actually had him going out as a wide receiver, so he wasn't even coming out of the backfield, and he was still making those plays, and he's been by far the breakout performer of the year so far. The play of the year so far is, in my opinion, Mike might have a different opinion. We didn't get to have a chance to talk about this too much, but so far, it's got to be Drew Bailey's diving touchdown against Coastal. Sean Price, after this past weekend, that game-winning catch, that was a big competition. But Drew Bailey, who hasn't seen a whole lot of action in the offense all year, and making that diving catch, there's no doubt in my mind that had ESPN been broadcasting this game, that would have been a top 3 ESPN play. He fully laid out, catching the ball, pinning it to his helmet as he's diving. Great catch, and that really is what took the breath out of Coastal in winning that game. Like I said earlier, the co-winner would be Sean Price's touchdown this weekend, game-winning against Samford, and being able to drag his foot in and keeping the touchdown intact and winning the game for us, essentially. And our defensive MVP, this is actually a really hard one. This is probably the hardest one we've had to look at. But it's a toss-up, in my opinion, between Jeremy Kimbrough and Brandon Greer. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing and give him a co-win, only because Brandon Greer, he has 59 tackles total on the year, which is a ton. That's great numbers. But he also, to add to that, he has 8 tackles for a loss, 6 of those being a sack, and he has a pick 6 of 70 yards. On top of that, he also has 2 fumble recoveries. So and one forced fumble. So he's putting up huge numbers. And then Kimbrough is also putting up huge numbers. He has 77 total